Okay. Hi, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Ozzy and Keats podcast. We're not great. We're just okay. O for Ozzy, K for Keats, John Kidding, and Chris Osgood with you. I am coming to you from the Oddside Ales Tap Room in Grand Haven, the city in which I have retired. And there's Ozzy, who should be retired but isn't yet, at his home in suburban Detroit. And we are going to be joined by the great Mike Vernon, two-time Stanley Cup champ and Chris Osgood's mentor. Oh, we have questions for him, and we need to also include off the top that we can't do this without the help of Podcast Nation in Troy, Michigan. So, Ozzy, as we begin, before we bring Vernie in,
Yeah.
how much did he shape the adult you turned into, and can we blame him for some of that?
Well, I always put there's two guys other than family that, you need mentors when you're younger, when you're growing up. I was there originally with Tim Shovelday. He was great. He had a tough go of it while he was here in Detroit. Had that great first year when he was here, and after that just didn't work out. Then I was with a lot of different guys, and Mike Vernon, who actually grew up 3 hours away from from Calgary, where he played for the Flames. Between him and Grant Fear, both my favorite goalies growing up. So it was a huge deal for me to get a chance to play with Vernie. But just advice, and he's not shy from telling stories or talking. So we're not going to be from the lack of that. And just subtle things you take from people. So I'd say number one, probably mentor Ken Holland. Two is a close second is Mike Vernon for
Okay.
sure.
All right. Well, we'll get to Vernie in just a few moments here. Um, but secondly,
Yeah.
on the podcast today, I would like to ask you this question: can you describe our relationship in 3 words?
Ours?
You get 3 words to talk about, what we have meant to each other over time.
A ripple effect. Because I never know what's going to happen. There's always a wake behind it.
That's that's pretty good.
Because when people go through life and they leave a wake behind them, they say that. That's the
Yeah.
same as you and me. There's always a ripple behind us, and of just starts with an S. You can't say it, and just who knows? And we usually recap it after, and what the heck just happened there?
Oh my God.
Why did we do that? Or you telling jokes that you just can't tell anymore. It's shameful you can't, but you can't. But it was so I would say that, a ripple effect.
All right, and for podcast listeners, they know the importance of the word ripple to to these proceedings. But that's and I'm sure everybody knows what we're talking about. But but the conversations after we would get into break are what
Yeah.
I've sort of taken into retirement, because that's the good stuff, right? As we finish a show, or as we're getting to watch puck drop, or we get to the finish of a post game show, and then we sort of look back on how it
Yeah.
went and what we could have said and didn't.
The preparation, even before a segment, while the hockey games are going on, were worth it. Those were a lot of fun. What we were gonna do, how we were gonna talk about it, where we should go. I mean, one of my favorite ever events ever was during your retirement tour. The last month we'll say is when with the trophy presentation at our old studio. That was one of my favorite things ever. Um, I didn't know you were getting a trophy. I was
Well,
unaware of that or
and
whatever.
yeah, maybe we can find a picture of it, and we'll put it up on the podcast here. But
If we found a picture of it, the folks at home would realize why I could barely get the thing out of the
oh
box and
my
hand it
God.
to you.
It's next to him, and I
Hmm.
don't know what he's doing. He's reaching down to get it, and it's a crystal microphone,
Microphone.
which was very nice. It included the etchings of all the 4 networks for whom I had worked, from Pass
Well,
to Fox Sports Detroit to
in the end,
FanDuel and
it could have
Bally.
been purchased in aisle 3 at Lovers Lane. To be honest with you, just saying.
So when you opened the
Oh,
box,
I couldn't.
you
I
didn't
couldn't
know
keep a
what
straight
was in
face.
there. Is that right?
And yeah, and because we have earpieces for the people,
Well,
the producers, no, Ozzy, no, 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 because already assuming that's what's going through this head of mine. I
Oh
couldn't
my
help
God.
it. But honestly, though, those last 2 weeks to a month when you were retired, we had a lot of fun. I mean, the last game was great. We interviewed Kane downstairs. That was a little earlier, but we had a lot of fun. On stage, everything we did. The last show was outstanding. I'd love to with Mick
Y-
coming down, but Mick
y-
was more than
Yeah.
generous to come down for almost every show. Right at the end there. I mean,
Yeah, he was.
that was a lot
And
of fun.
I mean, we can't begin to describe the energy
Yeah,
on the concourse level, even for a team that
you
alas did
know,
not make the playoffs, but the energy that was there in the
yeah,
last handful of home games
you
was
know,
very cool. And when Mick shows up, it just ramps up by a
and,
thousand.
and every like now and then, when you get put in perspective or you get a learning lesson, even when you don't know you're getting it. So last night I'm flipping through the channels and the 30 for 30 or some on Lee Corso, you know what I'm
Yeah,
talking about.
yeah,
And he had now he's had a heart attack, so he's obviously on TV like he used to put the heads on and how that all came about. And they used to do the show, the college game day show in the studio, and then they went on site once and they said the energy and how awesome it was and how he had a lot of fun with it. He liked to make people laugh. And I'm like, it's kind of what we did
yeah.
eventually, because when we were first down on that stage, I don't want to say intimidated, but a little bit uncomfortable, I would say, compared to where we were. We were in a cushy spot before, and as we went along, you get to enjoy the people, and you love the people around, and the noise, and the vibe, and the energy which they brought each and every game. We'd always say, "Wow, if the Red Wings could make the playoffs, how much fun could we have down here?"
Absolutely.
Would have
Yeah,
been outstanding. But I was
yeah.
watching that show, thinking of us and all these different kind of heads you could have put on. Like you could have put on like a David Lee Roth head, like anything from the '80s, like a Dolly
Jesus, we
Parton
lost.
head you could have put on. Like all these different heads that could have went on you at each and every
Why is
game.
Keats wearing Heather Locklear's head? What's going on there?
Why is Ozzy have William Shatner's head on? Like I always have to have a Canadian head on. Like I'd have Alex Trebek. I'd have those heads. God bless him, another famous Canadian. But I'm thinking like, it's everything happens for a reason, and we had a lot of fun down there. And Lee Corso was all about having fun. It was kind of like I was listening to him. He was lecturing me and be better, have fun with the people, and enjoy your time, because it definitely goes fast. And I'm gonna miss you down there, but we'll have a good time this year again.
And how many autographs would you guess you signed when we
Well, a
were
lot.
down
I,
there?
I go to that story. We used to sign autographs like this, and like not even look at people or pay attention.
Terrible,
Remember, I
terrible.
got called into. I was about 21, maybe. Drapes and I were young,
You
22.
told this story already that
Can I tell it
Scotty
again?
Boland, yeah.
Or is this the old, or well, I can tell it. And Scotty called us and we thought we were talking about hockey or what we had done the last game or what he expected of us. No, it was about being cordial, writing your autograph down so people can read it,
Yeah.
looking people in the eye, talking to people. So I as sometimes when you're younger, you're uncomfortable. Now, no, I enjoy talking to people and asking questions if I have enough time to do it. Because sometimes, I got you yelling at me, we got to go on. We're on. We got to go on. We're going on. We're going on. I'm still not even
Mostly I
gonna.
would yell at you because I would just want you to sign the autograph so the people could move on with their evenings, because you would
Yes.
stand there talking to me even though, you were holding somebody up. You told them you would sign, but you wouldn't fricking go over and sign the autograph.
I thought, like, now that I saw like Lee Corso body surfing, I think I'm gonna try that this year. If they
Oh.
make the playoffs, like
Oh, man. I
if the Wings make the playoffs, I would consider it. Have
I
some fun.
I'll be at
Well, we
the
might
edge of
have to
the
have
edge of my sofa in
if
Grand
the
Haven
Wings
watching
make
that.
a playoff appearance, you might have to have a guest appearance with. I mean, maybe we can put. I don't know who's like.
Okay. All right. Maybe, yeah. If the Wings make the playoffs, I'd like to come back and at least see you. Not necessarily on TV, but see you in person. But I'll
Yeah,
see you in person
bring the
before then.
grandkids
So,
down. We'll test the stage
yeah.
out again. We'll see if that
Okay.
thing's can hold up.
All right. Before we bring Mike Vernon in,
Yeah,
what sport do you think is the most boring to watch?
the most boring to
Yeah.
watch.
It's not
I
football.
mean,
It's not hockey. We know that. I don't think it's baseball anymore.
no, since they had the new rules in baseball, baseball's got a lot quicker, a lot faster, a lot more fun. Honestly, and I love doing it. I do. I like golfing a lot. I wish I could do it more than I do now, but I think I'm gonna go with golf. It's boring to watch.
Yeah, I mean, golf can be a pretty good nap, right? I mean,
It's
you have it
tough.
on and you're compelled, and
That's why it's kind of
especially when they're playing on hole 11, 12, and 13, and I mean, not
It's
the
interesting.
Masters necessarily, but
Well, the Masters U.S. gonna be fun, but just to purely watch, it's unless you absolutely know what's going on, it's hard. Or I'm gonna say, because I have absolutely no idea what's going on, is Formula One racing, which I get people love and it's cool. It's a huge spectator sport, but we're going around. I don't get what's going on. So
well, and that's an interesting story because Netflix basically helped that sport to explode. I mean,
yeah,
they've have cameras inside. My sons kind of pulled me into this. Cameras inside, you get to know the people and the personalities inside, and more. I think more sports, more teams are doing that to let people see inside, and the drivers or the athletes just have to abide by that. This quarterback series that's on Netflix
oh,
that
it's awesome.
it is. I mean, stuff that you have no idea about, but God bless Drew Brees and Joe Burrow and Patrick
Yeah,
Mahomes because they had cameras on them every day
every day.
inside their homes. So I don't
NHL.
want to see what happens inside your home. Trust me, I don't. There's no interest. Well, there might be interest, but I couldn't watch what happens inside your home if we were to have
Well,
a an Aussie cam.
when the kids are here, it's like family ties, and when they're gone, it's like boogie nights. So that's the way you can look at it. However you want to take that.
Would would your wife concur with that? Would Jenna also agree that it's boogie nights when the kids are gone? No,
He
she
called
would
me
not.
Easy Lies again. He
Yeah, there
called me
you
Easy
go.
Lies.
There you go.
Or are you
All right.
exaggerating stories again?
Yeah,
That's what
exaggerating stories.
the
Um,
exaggerated story.
all right, let's take a break, and we'll bring in Ozzy's former goalie partner, Mike Vernon. Just a quick chance to get our breath on the other side of this. And there he is. There's former Red Wing Stanley Cup champion Mike Vernon, a member of the Hall of Fame now. I'll begin with this. I have great admiration for you because you were a guy who shepherded Chris Osgood when you came to Detroit. I've not been able to do that for 10, 12 years, and yet I, I'm I'm in awe of you because you managed to do it to help find him to 400 wins.
Well, I caught him at a young age too. Don't forget that. Now he's older and he's set in his ways and things like that. But he was eager to learn, and he just loved the game of hockey too. And I think at the start of it, when I first got there, it's he said, if you want my number, or if you want number 30, I'll give it to you. And I said, no, you got drafted here. That's your number. I'll just take another one. I'll just go with maybe 29. And I think that kind of set the tone for Chris and I, that he kind of goes, oh, this Vernon guy's not a bad guy. So I think that kind of set the tone. And then later on, obviously, he lived close to my wife and I, and my wife helped him furnish his house and things like that. But he's a Westerner and I'm a Westerner, so we got along pretty well. We don't mind having the odd Crown Royal.
Oh,
Now there's a big thing in Ontario right now. Crown Royal is Ford was pouring it out because one of the bottling pieces of the company have moved into the United States. But uh, yeah, we had a few things in
boy,
common. We also like to golf.
yeah, it was good. We had a good mix of playing hockey, and when it was time to relax back then, that's what you did. You go out, we'd relax, have a few beers, and get ready for the next game. The best years when we split games, Vernie, when we each went, one played, next guy played. It was we just went. We knew when we were playing. Other than when we had that mess in Alberta when you played in Calgary and I played in Edmonton, we were awful, and we got banned from those arenas by Scotty Bowman.
What about the time in LA? He calls us over and he goes, Vernie, you're awful here. Ozzy, you're no better. Do I have to call up Kevin Hodson to play tonight?
Oh yeah, we were we had some rough moments on those West Coast swings because back then, John, you nowadays they don't have roommates. Well, Vernie and I roomed together for a couple of years. I mean we almost missed a plane once, but that wasn't our fault, and
Of course, it wasn't your fault.
it wasn't. It was a time change by Scotty Bowman that he didn't make us aware of, and we were in bed actually watching football. We were being good boys.
Yeah. And actually, we're on our way. Chris Draper called and said, "Are you guys on your way?" And said, "Yeah, we're ready to go. We'll be on our way down." And we get down there and the bus had taken off. And I look at Ozzy, I go, "Well, let's just go check back into the hotel." And I said, "It's going to be tough for Scotty to start the game tomorrow in Edmonton without their two goaltenders." And Ozzy's, "No, we're jumping in a
No,
cab."
we're and John, then there's no GPS. Like we tell the cab you're going. It wasn't at the. It's always at the private hangar. So we had to kind of figure out how to get there and
Oh,
where it
man.
was. There was
Jeez.
no getting direct ticket there from your GPS system. So we figured. I remember Scotty was standing on the end of the stairs or standing up top,
Yeah.
looking very
Oh,
presidential, and we came up, walked up the stairs.
So as I understand it, Vernie, I mean, Scotty had interest the year before you were traded to Detroit in getting you. What was your perception of Scotty Bowman when you got to Detroit?
no, it's, you know, Scotty has a long history and things like that. And his days in Montreal, I kind of knew he wasn't very well liked and things like that. But when he went to Pittsburgh, it's interesting because Badger Bob was there, and then Badger Bob was
Mhm.
diagnosed with cancer, and I had Badger Bob in Calgary, and he's probably one of the better coaches I've ever come
Sure.
across. He was a very positive guy and things like that, and I really enjoyed him. And so when I met Scotty, I think it was the first time we talked on the phone um, a couple times. And then when I first met him and things like that, I just brought up Badger Bob, and he thought the world of Badger Bob. And, and I think I got off on the right foot there. And, you know, Scotty's it's not complicated. If you put in the work and you work hard and you do your job, I mean, he'll get along just fine with you. But if you're not working, or if he thinks you're taking a night off, you're going to hear about it.
So he liked Ozzy. Scotty liked Ozzy, or Ozzy's potential, I guess. And part of the reason, as I understand it, that you were brought in was to make sure that Osgood didn't mess this up, because everybody expected that Osgood would mess this up. And so it was part of your job to sort of get him on the straight and narrow. Would that be fair?
Well, I don't know. It wasn't put to me that way. It was just Scotty wanted a veteran goaltender, and he's got himself a young draft pick, a young guy that obviously has a lot of potential. So I think it was just more of a comfort zone for Scotty to have an older guy and a younger guy that could tend the net. And I mean, we got along right off the bat, so I think Scotty was pleased with that. And even when I had a contract dispute, um, Scotty calls me a couple days after, and he said, "Would you come back to Detroit?" And I said, "Of course I would. I love it here." And so we managed to get a contract and stay. And then we won the cup the next year. And
Right.
then they gave the reins to Ozzy, and I moved on to San Jose. But that's the business. And as goaltenders, we all know nowadays that if you don't have two goaltenders that can play, you're not going to
Scotty,
make playoffs.
Vernie,
It's That's the way it is.
yeah, Vernie, tell people because when we're talking about that night in '97 when
Oh,
Mac
here we
fought
go. Here we
with me,
go.
but listen where I'm going. I always hear Mac's side of it. And obviously Shanny loves talking about it, so we hear about Shanny all the time, but we never hear like your side of it ever. Like what you saw, because now as a goalie, you're kind of coming in you came out pretty darn quick, I believe, if I
You're
remember
talking
that
about the
brief.
Patrick Waugh fight
Yeah,
in
but
March of
but
'97.
we hear everybody
Oh,
else's perspective other than Vernie's. So I want to hear like, and I've never heard it either. I just know you were gassed and almost unable to play after that. I'm like, I ain't going in. Forget that. You're staying in.
well, I've been in a lot of brawls in the Western Hockey League and
Oh,
things like that. And my job, if the other goaltender leaves, then I leave. And I'm like going, "Oh, for Christ's sake, Patrick, stay in your net." And he comes flying out, so I gotta go. And I mean, I get over there, and I mean, Adam put him on one of his arms. He looks at me and he starts laughing, basically. And I'm like, "Well, whatever." And then obviously Shanahan and Patrick Waugh, and that thing got all broken up. And then Patrick basically came at me, and so then I just kind of twisted around and started the fisticuffs with him. Not a lot. I dodged a few off the top of my
You
head,
did great. You did
and I
great against him.
connected with a couple, but
Yeah.
it was. I mean, I was, as like Ozzy said, I was gassed, and then I grabbed his pad and just went down, and then they broke it up and things like that. And I go into the dressing room, and I'm like, I'm done. I That's the thankless job, these guys that fight. Like, I don't know how they do it. And I'm sitting there, and Ozzy comes in. You got to go back on the ice. I go, how? I left the crease. I got in a fight. I have to be kicked out of the game. And he goes, no, you got to go back. They're waiting for you. So I get dressed and go back out there, and crowd goes kind of a little crazy and things like that, and they're all jacked up. And we we basically came back and won that game.
Yeah.
And I never realized it until after the game when we're in the dressing room. That was my 300th victory.
I just found that out. I just
And
read
nobody
that
ever
this morning.
talks about that ever.
Yeah.
What a
Yeah, and I
Ever.
was like, "Holy shit, I just that 300." That is a memorable game for a 300th that I got in a fight, I did that. So anyway, it was, look, it was fun, and ironically, a guy like Larry Onoff and Forsberg kinda started the whole thing, and then it just escalated, but obviously the year prior to it, with Chris Draper and, Claude Lemieux, but, it was just where our team was at. We had a closely knitted team. When we went on the road, we did paintball. We went out for dinners and things like that, and it was a team right there that we knew we were united as a team, and we knew we had something, and we all stuck up for one another, and it showed because we continued on the roll, and we ended up winning the cup that year.
Can you describe what it was like in the town? Because you played in other places, but how Detroit was on fire when you guys were on your way to that cup in '97?
Well, it was electric. I mean, no matter where you went, I mean, hockey town, and the people were very excited. I mean, the arena was on fire every time, and everybody was anxious to get the playoffs underway and get into it. And it's a thing the whole city can get involved in the playoffs. You look at the Lions, what they did last year, and it just a sporting team can get the attention of the whole town, and it's electric. The media get in, fired up about it all, and when you have a great opportunity to win, everybody's sitting on the edge of their seats, and they're waiting for that moment. And
That-
what was it? I think it was 44 years, was it?
42 years, yeah. 42
42.
years, yeah.
42 years.
Yeah.
So and then then they go on and win another three more. Like, they had a dynasty there, and they built a great organization, and it's, it was fun. And there's nothing but great memories of Detroit, uh, and that hockey club. We had a great team, and I knew when I got traded to Detroit, I said, At least I'm going to a really good team that has a chance of winning a cup again." Because the year before, you guys, I think you won the President's Cup, I believe,
And we
right?
lost. No.
But you lost to San Jose. But
Yeah.
anyway, I knew I was going to a good hockey club, and as a goaltender, you just want that another opportunity to win a Stanley Cup at any time, and those opportunities don't come around too often.
Having said all that, you get to the cup, you get to the parades, all of that stuff, the complete adulation. You take the cup around town. You get to the point where the Wings have to make a decision. They trade you to San Jose after you won the Conn Smythe Award, helping the team win a cup. How much did that set you back personally?
Well, it's part of the game, and it's part of the business, and you're just I knew that they wanted Ozzy to be the guy and things like that, and obviously payroll comes into effect, and when you look at the payroll, where could we maybe save some money and move on. And that's kind of where I came in because, I was looking for a new contract and Kenny Holland, and they said, we're not prepared to sign you to a new contract and things like that. And I said, okay, well, fine, then let me explore other teams or get me traded. And we had a mutual agreement that yeah, you could do that and things like that. And then we struck up a deal with the San Jose Sharks, and and then they basically talked to Kenny, and I think they gave up a third round pick or something like that. But it, at least I moved on, and would have been nice to stick around and maybe been part of the next one too, and things like that. But that's part of the game, and Chris wanted to play. Chris wanted to play in playoffs, and that's kind of the you can do the 82 game schedule, but the fun part's the playoffs, and especially for a goaltender, it's high level, it's high pressure every day. But if you can get yourself into the zone and play good hockey for 2 months,
Yeah.
it's the best. It's the best feeling in the world. So I was fortunate enough to win 2 Stanley Cups, and and Ozzy has won. How many have you won, Oz? 3 or 4?
3.
3. Yeah.
But I look back on it, I always look back too, where I'm like, like even when Hasek came here, I'm like, I probably shouldn't have left, but it worked. Everything works out for a certain reason, and in the end, your career is your career. I mean, yeah, we would have liked to play together. Probably, who knows how that would have worked out? Probably real well. But in the end, there's no way I could have played with both you and Dominic Hasek that long. My liver would not be in any condition to even be standing upright. So I look at it that way, as in would have been great because you're one of my goalies I watched growing up when I was younger. Same with Hasek. But I'm thinking to myself, the health repercussions for playing with you two that long would not have been good. So it worked out
Yeah,
as it should.
but Oz, you learned a lot over the time, and they're Hashik. I don't know him that well. Actually, I just ran into him about a
Yep.
month ago in Toronto, but he seems like a fun guy and things like that. But it's the goaltending, different styles and approaches and things like that that you can, as a young guy or whatever, you can pick up from other goaltenders and put it into your repertoire of what you do. And it's fun when you can meet different types of goalies and how they think the game and how they figure things out and things like that. And it's all a learning
Yeah.
process.
Like lots was learned, John, from just very nice stalls are beside each other. And sometimes I do something, and back then you could have a beer in your stall. And we just have one in our stall sitting there, uppers, and we just talk about hockey, like about the game, about what to say, about what to do. I'll never forget, I was talking to the media and I was telling them how bad I played. And you left and you go, stay right here. And you came back and brought me the beer you were having. And you're like, don't ever tell anybody how bad you are because they're going to tell it for you. Tell them how good you are. Even when it wasn't great, tell them that you still got your game, you still have this or that. And it's true because if you tell everybody, they're going to jump all over it. It's going to be way worse than it should be. So my point is that you and I would always sit there and there'd be advice given. Like if I got hit somewhere with a puck and hurt, you go, well, put a pad there, do this, do that. Because back then we manipulated our equipment. Remember, we had cheaters everywhere on it.
Oh
We'd
yeah.
always be sitting there with our equipment on, having a cold, and after looking, yeah, we're gonna put this here. Maybe that will hit if it goes through the legs. It will close quicker. We remember we sprayed stickum on the inside of our pad so the puck would stick to us. There's lots of
How
stuff we.
about the
That's
how about
illegal. That's illegal. You were doing things that were
Nope.
illegal.
Our jerseys were big here. Remember we did that. But
how about the rolls we put on the side of our
that was your
can?
invention, and they
It was
still
like the
use it.
beer cans we
Yeah,
called them.
you should have patented it. Yeah, you put them right here, like right here. Yeah,
That's
it was
that 19. That's that 19 hole, so
yeah,
we could try
you close
shut it down
quicker.
quicker.
Yeah, you put stuff everywhere. There was no rules, John, in the rule book then. You could pretty much do anything you wanted as long as you can move well enough.
Yeah.
So it wasn't illegal. That's your point. You could be as big as you want artificially.
Basically, the only thing they worried about was the goal pads, the width of the pads.
Yeah,
But
because they're really wide.
if you took a picture of me when I played in Calgary, and Detroit. It looks like I put on like 40 pounds.
Yeah, Bernie,
It's
speaking of Calgary, I always said like nobody knows. You're the only goalie to win a visiting goalie to hoist the Stanley Cup in Montreal, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, tell them.
Wow.
We're the only
W-
team.
Wow.
Yeah, tell us about that game because Lanny McDonald, one of the greats on that team, but many were on that team. Al McInnes. But tell us about that final game in Montreal. I watched it on TV. It was one of my favorite games to watch because I disliked Montreal and I lived out in Alberta and was cheering for Calgary.
Well, it's Montreal is the hockey hotbed, I guess, of Canada. You're playing up against the Montreal Canadiens, and we lost to Montreal in '86 in our building. And, we're going, it was game six, and we were up in the game going into the third period. And it was like, guys, stay focused. Let's just stay on our game plan. You know what? We don't know what the fans are going to do if we win. So you just focus on the hockey and let's worry about that part of it after the fact. And so when Lanny scored the goal, what a great way to
Yeah.
he retired after the biggest goal of his life in Montreal. He retired right after that. A great way to end your career. Um, but it was interesting when we did win and we're celebrating and things like that. And then we got the handed the trophy and things like that. And the Montreal Canadian fans, they all stood up and gave us quite an ovation.
Cool.
And it was pretty respectful, and it was just a great feeling to we're in Montreal and that happened. And then
Wow.
after we're on the bus and Mrs. Newendike, who had one of Joe's sticks, the fans were crowded around and she was out there like trying to part the fans with the stick. Hey, we got to get this bus out of here. And then once we get to the airport, we get on the bus or get on the plane, and it's just the players. Some of the guys were married, the scouts, the management, and we pull the plane back, and it stopped because Don Maloney, or I think that was his name, Don Maloney. He was the Air Canada guy that was with us. He goes, pull the plane back in. Well, I don't think we got enough beer on here. So we ordered a bunch more
Oh my
beer for the
God.
flight home. And it was good because we're sitting around, hanging out with our players that we just won with. We didn't have any other distractions and we talked about it. And I mean, I sat with one like Ian McKenzie, who was a scout, and Glenn Hall, who
Mhm.
everyone knows, legendary goalie, and we just sat there and drank beer and told stories, and
Yeah.
it was just a wonderful flight home. And then when we landed in Calgary, there were a bunch of fans and things like that at the airport, and
Yeah.
we proceeded to, celebrate.
Well, we just talked about how Detroit was on fire when you won a cup in Hockey Town. I mean, you won a cup in your hometown. Can you compare the feeling that you had in Detroit with the feeling that you experienced in Calgary winning a cup there?
Well, the feeling of winning the cup is, I think, the same. You work your whole career for this, and you dream of it as a kid. I think it's the aftermath
Mhm.
because I was pretty well known in the city of Calgary, or at least everybody knew who I was. I didn't really know who they were. But, whenever I went out or go for dinner or do something, people would obviously recognize
Sure.
and talk and things like that. A little different in Detroit. People, they did recognize you, but they were very respectful and things like that. Uh, and we had our own little community kind of in Birmingham there and go to a few restaurants and things like that, but golfed quite a bit. But living, I live in Calgary now and I still get, the '89 team and that was great and this and that. And it's still a good feeling to that
Sure.
people do remember it and things like that. Uh, but to compare them both, they're both unbelievable. They were 10 years apart in my career. the two Cubs. So to do to do something like that, I was, it was I don't know, it was just a great feeling for me that I could still play in the NHL, but still win it at that age. And I'm proud that, Ozzy and I both had longevity for our careers.
You
It's
sure
We
did.
played a lot of years in the National Hockey League,
Now,
and we're not the biggest guys in the world.
no, if you put
And
both of us together, we're not as big as some of those guys now. That's the
exactly.
thing. Like but I love the story. My favorite though is remember we used to come to Alberta and all my friends and family were in Edmonton. All your friends and family were in Calgary. We go to Edmonton, I'm playing. I was atrocious. I was not good. Then we go to Calgary, Vernie's playing. Not good either. Not very good. So then we
Yeah.
go, remember we went back to the next year. What did he say to us? You're never playing in Edmonton and you're never playing in Calgary ever again. So that was known. And we were
Well,
actually happy with that.
Well, Scotty asked me one time, "Do you want to play in Calgary?" I says, "No, they booed me enough."
Yeah.
I said, "That's all right. I'll play in Edmonton. I'm used to that."
Or else I got caught on the net, which is a surprise. Now we're in California. So we're
Oh,
paintballing, we're having fun. We're playing in San Jose. I step on the back of the net, I fall down. I don't know who scores in the empty net. Now I've been caught out like 2 times in the last 5 games I played. So now we're in LA, and in LA in the old Forum, that bench is huge. And he remember our stalls, and Paul Coffey walks by, so he goes, "Oh, you guys are gonna get it." Scotty comes in, and I've told Glenn Hall, I've told all these goalies, Jacques, all these goalies to stay in the net. You two stay in the effing net. That's enough. Stay in the net. First, they drop the puck at center, goes back, Vernie's in net. They rim the puck, hits the glass, comes out front, they score on him. Scotty's fuming behind the bench. He's sour, but he can't say anything to Vernie, who's laughing. He thinks it's funny. I'm on the end of the bench. He catches me with a grin on my face, rushes, gives me a lecture for 3 minutes on the bench about staying in the net. I've told you guys stay in the net. You stay in the net. I go, I'm not playing, Scotty. I don't give a shit who's playing. You guys say, you tell him to stay in the net. God.
You tell him.
Oh, yeah. It was like when it rained, a storm with us, Vernie, but we found a way to get it done in the end.
Oh my God.
Oh
But
yeah. Well,
you,
Scotty made it eventful for us all. So
yeah,
I
you guys both mentioned Glenn Hall, who's a
Yep.
Hall of Fame goaltender and a legendary figure in the game of hockey. And I saw this quote, Vernie. I always thought Grant Fuhrer was the best goalie of his time, but I also thought Vernie was very close. And to hear that from Glenn Hall has to give you goosebumps still.
Oh, definitely. He was one of my biggest supporters. And he believed in me. And I know he watched me a lot over the years in junior and things like that. But I think the one thing that he liked my competitiveness, and and he taught me a lot. He just said, sometimes it's the second effort, and sometimes it's the third effort that you have to do. You just never give up on a puck, he said. And you know, there's so many stories, but Glenn Hall, I mean, I'll say, well, what the hell was the defenseman doing on that? And he says, Bernie, that's to be expected. You cannot rely on your defenseman. You got to be ready all the time for it. And I remember telling Paul Baxter, Baxy, when you got the puck, I'm ready for it. And he would get so mad at me.
Can you imagine playing without a mask as Glenn Hall did?
No.
Now, yeah, that's not good.
Isn't that incredible to think about? Even still, that Roger Crozier and legendary goalie figures, I mean, didn't wear face coverings, didn't wear a mask.
Back in the day, they had straight sticks, so they couldn't raise it that much. But still, and then all of a sudden, Bobby Hall starts curving his stick, and Stan Mikita, and Glenn's in Chicago, and the coach comes up to him and he goes, why don't you stop any pucks in practice? He said, look you either want me to stop him in a game or practice, but you don't get both. Oh, Ben was, was he a character? He signed a new contract one time I think it was in Chicago. And he was always late for training camp because he was always painting a barn. and up in Stony Plain, Alberta. But he'd get to training camp late and always a contract dispute. And he signed a new contract and he's up in the GM's office. He goes, Glenn, I'd really appreciate it if you wouldn't say anything to anybody about the contract and what it's worth and everything else like that. He goes, oh, you don't have to worry about that. I'm just as embarrassed about it as you are.
Hey, Vernie, thanks for joining us. We can't thank you enough. It's great to see you. Obviously, you're a big part
Anytime, boys,
of
anytime.
hockey
Awesome.
history and Red Wing history, and the fact that you had some relationship with Chris Osgood and survived it gives me hope, because I'm not sure I'm going to survive my relationship with Ozzy.
Well, you just need to get a little dirt on him, and then you might be all right.
Well, we got dirt. That's not a problem. Hey, thanks.
Well,
All the best. We appreciate it. That's going to do it, everybody, for this edition of Ozzy and Keats. We'll see you next time.
Ozzy and Keats is produced by Zachary Davis and Bill McAllister and proudly distributed by Podcast Nation in Troy, Michigan.